Welcome to Dubs Talk Live, presented by Fit Aid. My name is Zena, Keita, and this is Dalton Johnson. And Dalton, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm starting to feel like I'm a bad luck charm because every time I host Dubs Talk Live, the Warriors do not win, and they don't win prettily. The Warriors fell to the Phoenix Suns today, 125-113. Went from 6th in the Western Conference to now 8th, and they remain winless on the season against the Phoenix Suns, 0-3. Initial thoughts?
Well, I mean, this was all about Steph Curry, right? So it was his return, obviously, a slow start for Steph. You know, I mean,
For sure.
This last game we talked about kind of the rust of Andrew Wiggins, things like that, right? And rust is inevitable. I think for Steph, it lasted 3 quarters. You know, he scored 24 points. 16 of those were in the fourth quarter. So some tough times tonight as far as weighing the good and the bad. But the fourth quarter was where the Warriors and Steph Curry really ramped it up. So if you're going to look at a positive, I would look at that fourth quarter for sure. But again, Steph, it lasted 3 quarters. I'm not going to expect it to last much longer than that.
For sure.
So a positive sign in the fourth quarter, trying to will the Warriors to win, fell a little short.
That's right. Steph was supposed to be on a minutes restriction. He ended up playing 31 minutes and had, like you said, 24 points, 16 in the fourth. There was a sense of urgency that really came about, not only offensively, but also defensively. You saw a lot more turnovers, a lot more pressure on the ball from the Warriors in that fourth quarter. How do you think that Steph's return and then being able to come back on the court and play those 31 minutes really impacted the Warriors culturally, thinking of like, we want to win this game for Steph, or wanting to win this as we close out our homestand? Yeah,
I think that when you have Steph Curry back on the floor and you know that you're going to get number 30, it's obviously a big boost, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, it's a little bit of an adjustment. You know, it's an adjustment for Jordan Poole, an adjustment for a handful of players, you know, and they've had to adjust getting Andrew Wiggins back, Andre Iguodala back. Klay Thompson misses last game with a late scratch, then he's back, right? So that's been the Warriors season kind of this entire season. It's kind of the ups and downs of the season, kind of riding the waves, and we're now at the halfway point. So again, a huge boost, but also an adjustment to get used to how Steph Curry plays. So again, when I talk about the rust, I talk about the adjustment. Do I think it's going to last forever? No, not by any means. But this was a tough loss, and one that just shouldn't happen to such a short-handed Suns team. But this was a Suns team without Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre, and more. But hey, at least our guy Magic Johnson, he was happy to see Steph Curry back on the floor. The king of Twitter, Magic Johnson, simple as that. So again, it was great news for the Warriors and the league, as Magic is saying, to have Steph back on the court. It was just a disappointing night with his return. Simple as that.
Yeah. But the great news, as Magic Johnson said, not only is this great for the league, you're seeing the essence of Steph Curry, right? There were still plays where he was getting to the basket and his shots were going up. They just weren't falling as much, particularly in the first portion of the game. But you still saw, oh, Steph Curry's got it. He just needs to, like you said, shake off some rust. I love the fact that when he's back on the court, the offense starts moving, right? Things start opening up. You mentioned Jordan Poole. Interestingly enough, most people thought that Jordan Poole was going to have a nice time offensively, in the sense that the biggest defender on the Suns team would be on Steph. Mikal Bridges actually played Jordan Poole all night. So that was actually an opportunity for him to step up as well. What did you make of Jordan Poole's game coming off of the bench and having to play that role?
Yeah, it is just that weird adjustment for him, right? Where he starts the last 17 games, I believe, something like that. And, you know, last season, he started 50 games, you know, and then Klay Thompson comes back. You figure out, am I a sixth man? Am I a starter? Up and down. So it's hard for someone that has that kind of scoring ability to kind of go back and forth. I really do think it is a tough challenge for him. You know, do I think he needs to be a little more efficient? Yeah, of course. And I think he knows that as well. No doubt about it. That's stating the obvious. But again, he had, I think, 2 points in the first half. Almost scores 30. So you can see how easily he can score in a flurry. It's just getting that right from the get-go. As that sixth man now, you need to be a spark, but not just a spark, but efficiently. And that's the number that I'm looking for. But we go back to that fourth quarter because that's where I really wanted to see how the Warriors were going to play with Steph Curry back, because Steph isn't just one of the best players in the fourth quarter in all the NBA. It's the efficiency that he does it. averages 7.8 points per game in the fourth quarter,
Wow.
while only playing 6.8 minutes. So that's what I'm
is
talking
efficient.
about. Yeah,
Right, that ratio is real.
he gets in the game, and you just see, as you said, the way the ball moves, everything changes, right? So
Right.
Steph's gravity was felt as the Warriors try to make that comeback. You know, you can't say anything against their fight tonight. They're down by 27 points.
Yeah, they
They
came
came back. It was a single-digit game
Yeah.
at one point, right? So the Warriors in the fourth quarters without him, in those 11 games, they were second to last in the entire NBA with points in the fourth quarter, dead last in field goal percentage. So it just goes to
wow.
show
Okay.
what he does
He really
when
just
it matters
elevates
most.
them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a great word,
That's
word
great.
for it is elevate, gravity, all these kind of words. And that's where I go, like, kind of get back to, this was an inexcusable loss, but do I think that he's going to have this rust much longer? No, not at all.
Well, let's hear from Steph Curry directly. He's at the podium now.
Steph, what were those first three quarters like for you coming back, and then what was different about the fourth quarter?
I mean, after 4 weeks, it's obviously just kind of hit or miss on how much rust you'll have and how quickly you can get up to the speed of the game. And obviously with the flow, the way that they were playing, first quarter felt good just to be back out there and running with my guys and feeling the energy in the building again. And then kind of hit a little lull in the second and third quarter. I felt like I got stronger as the game went on, which is exciting knowing, you know, body will respond coming on this road trip and be able to continue to build my endurance back to where it was before the injury, and then hopefully get everybody on the same page of how we need to go through this road trip and find a way to kind of right the ship after these last 3 games.
I'm sure part of the fourth was, you're trying to get back in the game, but how much of your aggression in the fourth was trying to shoot yourself into a rhythm?
Well, it was my longest run of the game. The minutes restrictions are always tough because you're trying to pace yourself, but you're also looking at the clock every possession, like counting, knowing when you're going to come out. So you try to have that balance. You don't want to force things just because you're only going to play a certain stretch of the game and kind of let the game come to you. But there is a little bit of pressure of trying to find, a rhythm as quick as possible, knowing the runs are a lot shorter than I'm used to. In the fourth, the intensity of the game picked up. We obviously were playing very desperate to try to come back and made some plays. Felt like myself again, and then just felt a little short, obviously, with the loss. But I think we all kind of found a rhythm towards, that or throughout that fourth quarter stretch that we can hopefully bottle up and take on the road with us, knowing we have to play desperate on the road to beat the teams that are coming up on the schedule and, again, rectify the way that we've been playing throughout the season on the road.
What is, you're wearing the sleeve. What does that do for the shoulder? Just wearing the sleeve and you got the tape. What is kind of, the purpose?
It gives you support and keeps it warm and allows me to feel as composed in terms of everything that I'm trying to do, strengthening my shoulder to keep it right, and the fact I don't want anything on my right arm because that is where I feel like the flow of and the rhythm of being able to shoot the ball. That's something that has tried pretty much everything when I was going through my workouts coming back, and that was the one. It looks wild, but that was the one that felt the best in terms of giving my shoulder the right support and feel, throughout the game.
Do you feel the shoulder at all still? Did you feel it during the game tonight, taking hits or anything?
Anytime you have an injury, whether I feel it or not, it's more so I'm not thinking about it during the game, and that's the point we had to get to before I got cleared to play. So I don't think it matters how much I feel it. It's just that when I'm out there hooping, I'm not really thinking about it at all. So that's a positive, and hopefully it continues to stay that way with all the things I'll do in between games to keep it strong and keep the rehab process going, even though I'm back out there playing.
Stephen, is it somewhat bittersweet to see Damien on the other side?
No, absolutely not.
That's
I cut you out because in terms of he played extremely well
He
tonight.
did.
And
That
I
was-
don't like to see it at all.
Yep.
I already cheered him on his first game in Phoenix at home when he hit the game winner, so I did enough cheerleading for D. Lee.
Yeah.
I am proud of him the way he's played throughout the year and what everybody you talk to in the Suns organization speaks so highly of who he is as a person, who he is as a player, what he does for the locker room, and again, how he's been playing on the court. He's shooting the ball at an extremely high level, so you hate to see it against, our team. I know it was a special night for him for sure. His family and the crowd. He got to bring his son on the court to get the ring and all that, but I hated it at the same time.
Steph, you watched that 5-game win streak to start this trip, and now you guys lost 3 in a row. Where do you stand on where you guys are, and how you feeling about what you need to do now, and now that you're back, do you expect a turn up?
You always expect a turn up. You always expect us to find a way to go on a run. We've been talking about it for a while. The way the guys played those first 5 games and scratching and clawing and pulling out those wins was huge. We hit a tough stretch for the last 3. It happens, but I think we have to be honest with ourselves about the details of what makes a winning team. Remind ourselves, what that is, and hold ourselves to that standard in terms of everything you saw in the fourth quarter tonight. Not saying you're going to pick up 94 feet every possession and be able to sustain that for 48 minutes, but the level of focus, the level of togetherness, toughness, high IQ basketball, we demonstrated a lot of that to try to give ourselves a chance to win tonight. So got to put all those pieces together, and a lot of it too is it's our defensive principle, not fouling, rebounding the ball, which we didn't do either one of those tonight. Offensively moving the ball, we showed bright spots of that, and then figuring out our rotations again because we've had guys in and out the lineup and guys on minute restrictions, and you want to find hopefully a good run where we have, like Klay said, a full squad, and understand again how we can build momentum. We've been talking about it for a long time, and eventually you got to do it or else time runs out.
We back to hashtag full squad.
Jermichael's still out, and so we need him. But
That was
no T-shirts will be made.
You were talking about getting back to form. Wiggins said he's never been out this long, so it's kind of an adjustment period. But what do you think him picking up full court did for him and did for the team?
I mean, for our team, it helped us get back in the game. We got multiple extra possessions and steals and built a lot of momentum. I think for him individually and anybody coming back from an injury, you got to remind your body what it's like to meet that level of intensity, because it's so hard to simulate that even in practice or scrimmages or in the conditioning stuff that you do. I've had 3 or 4 of these kind of 4 to 6 week absences where I understood more how to focus on the rehab and also make sure your body doesn't lose too much of the conditioning and the preparation that you've built over the summer and training camp in the first 30 games. But everybody responds to it differently, and you have to remind yourself what that level's like, and kind of shock the system a little bit to get over the hump, so that every game you get a little bit stronger. And I think he, or hopefully he felt that tonight, and will look a lot better come Friday, where we play.
Going back to your answer to Marcus's first question, talking about at a certain point you just kind of have to do it, right? And I mean, Steve was sitting up here saying, taking responsibility of not having you guys prepared to be locked in from the jump. Why do you think that this season there has been, lineups aside and guys coming in and out aside, why has it been challenging to kind of just get that mental locked inness, I guess,
I mean, you just said kind of setting it aside. It's hard to not be real with ourselves about that part of it, and also we're a different team than we were last year, and there's expectations of how we started last year that we're trying to meet, and it's taking us a little while. So, early in the season, it was, our starting lineup's great, and the bench was trying to find an identity. Then there were some injuries. It was like, we can't win on the road. And then we found a way to scratch and claw, 5 straight wins out this homestand, and slowly get some reinforcements back off the injury list, and all the while we had moments where we've built an identity, and then it kind of escapes us a little bit. So coach obviously is going to blame us who he is as his character, but we also know that individually and collectively everybody can be a little bit better, and that'll make us closer to the team that we need to be, and we got 41 games to figure it out, or else we won't.
Cool.
So we had an identity, but it escapes us sometimes. That definitely stood out to me. Also, the continuation of the word desperation ball. Everyone knows in sports, playing desperately is not the way you want to attack any sort of game plan. So that's definitely something that the Warriors are going to have to work on for the next 41 games, as Steph mentioned. But someone who was not playing desperation ball tonight was a former Warrior and family member to Steph Curry, Damien Lee. Came in and got his standing ovation, his ring while Daxon, his son, was in hand. It was a beautiful, touching moment, but I'm almost worried that the crowd may have been cheering too loud for Damien Lee, because he played out of his mind. 22 points, 3 out of 8 field goals, but 14 of 14 from the free throw line. Unreal.
Yeah, I mean, the Warriors starters combined to take 9 free throw attempts. Damien Lee goes 14 for 14 from the free throw line. He's shooting 47.7% now on three-pointers. That 1-year, $2.1 million contract that he signed with the Suns this offseason, looking like quite the steal for the Suns right now. Simple as that. So,
for sure.
D. Lee, a night to forget for the Warriors, a night to remember for a former Warrior.
For sure. A night to remember somewhat, though, for Klay Thompson. Something about the Phoenix Suns and Klay Thompson, always something exciting. We're going to hear from him when we come back. Stay tuned. We're going to keep chopping it up about this game, and we will be back on Dubs Talk Live, presented by Fit Aid.
Dubs Talk Live is presented by Fit Aid Clean Energy and Sports Recovery, the energy drink for athletes. Fit Aid Energy is naturally sweetened with only 15 calories, no sucralose, no aspartame, and no compromises.
Hello, friends. Hello, friends on YouTube. Thank you guys for joining us. I was going through the comments, and there are 2 questions that popped up because Steph Curry did just talk about identity. One thing that was always the identity of the Warriors was the third quarter Warriors. Where did that go?
Yeah, I mean, tonight it was the fourth quarter Warriors.
It was.
At least. To fight back like
Yeah.
that, but just tough. I mean, at one point, I forget, it might have been a Torrey Craig three-pointer, but goes through, and you can see Andrew Wiggins kind of slammed it down, just like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
stop the bleeding.
It
What is
was
going
bad.
on right now?
Yeah.
So it was just a little bit of an avalanche that kept kind of forming more and more for the Suns, and the Warriors were they weren't able to stop it tonight.
Yeah.
And again, like I've been saying, they fought back, but this season has been a lot of too little too late for the Warriors.
Yeah, and that goes back to that quote from Steph about playing desperate ball. It's as if they're just continuously climbing and clawing back. He used that word too. It is so indicative that they are so used to winning, and they do need that reminder of just how hard it is to win in this game, especially when parity is at an all-time high. People are getting better and better and better. People are leaving superstar teams and being better at other teams, aka Damien Lee. It's fun to watch, but if you are the Warriors, you're realizing there's a target on your back.
Oh, there always is, and there's not a lot of separation in the Western Conference standings this season right now, which is a good and bad thing, but the Warriors need to find a way to start to climb up that ladder in a hurry.
Seriously. All right, guys, we will keep talking. Keep leaving your comments. We're going to keep asking questions. We'll be back. Welcome back to Dubs Talk Live, presented by Fit Aid. We are talking about this game, Golden State Warriors losing to the Phoenix Suns 125-113. But after they're closing out this homestand 5-3, going on the road after 3 straight losses, there is one person that has been shining throughout this series, and that's been Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson had an unreal game tonight, scoring 14 points in the first quarter. He was just coming off of handoffs. He was open. I mean, just perfect spot-up shooting. What did you make of his game?
Yeah, again, I mean, if you need a spark, Klay Thompson gave it to him right away. He's been really on fire from the gates lately, and that's been something that's really stood out to me, is the fact that you're not waiting for the third, fourth quarter for Klay Thompson. It's that first quarter a lot of the times where Klay's getting big-time production. You just brought up 14 points. I've used the word earlier in the show, efficient, and that's what Klay was in that first quarter as well, right? So he's not someone who's been clank, 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 okay, now I need to try to find my shot later in the game. He's been hitting the ground running really well for the Warriors, and it's something that the rest of the team can build off of.
Right.
So again, a disappointing end to the homestand, but Klay Thompson had a great homestand.
For sure.
You know, I mean, he had a scare in that last game where all of a sudden he's a late scratch. We're a little bit concerned. What's going on here?
Right, that's true.
But for him to kind of respond with this, where it's one day after the 1-year anniversary of his return,
Wow.
really celebrating in style for that anniversary.
Wow, I didn't even know that. I didn't realize it was that anniversary. Well, we're going to hear from him. He stopped by the podium to speak to the media. Let's hear his thoughts.
Why do you think you guys just kind of didn't have it defensively for first few quarters?
I'm not sure, but maybe with Steph and Wiggs coming back, we probably relaxed a little bit more than we should, because we thought, you know, just showing up, maybe we get the dub. But I love the intensity we play with towards the end, and you know what? Sometimes you need a loss like this to remind yourself how hard it is to win in this league, and I think we can turn it into a positive. Any other questions?
Sorry, Klay. That run you guys made in the fourth, was it just a matter of, okay, we have to dial this up here?
I think it was a combination of a few things. Probably just great effort and intensity, and just being the more aggressive team.
You could just tell that he was absolutely defeated by what happened tonight. He always shows up against Phoenix, right? There's always like a little bit of tension. That definitely was indicative of, man, I cannot wait to meet them again. Well, we are going to look at when the Warriors go on the road. They've got a 5-game away road trip coming up and some tough competition. Stay tuned. We'll chat it up more on Dubs Talk Live, presented by Fit Aid.
Dubs Talk Live is presented by Fit Aid Clean Energy and Sports Recovery, the energy drink for athletes. Fit Aid Energy is naturally sweetened with only 15 calories, no sucralose, no aspartame, and no compromises.
Okay. Hello, friends. We are back on YouTube. Another identity question for you, Dalton.
Yes.
So, some of our friends are asking, whatever happened to slam and keep boards Kerr, where he would just get so frustrated and so angry and so animated on the sideline?
Right. I mean, I think that I'm sure we're going to talk about this a little bit, but what he said after the game, you can kind of feel that he's frustrated, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a halfway point. They're 20-21.
Right.
We're going to talk about a key word, some buzzy words as far as wake-up call. And, there shouldn't be a wake-up call 41 games into the season, to me,
Right.
you know, and this wasn't a game where it was a bunch of youngsters out there, right? You didn't
right.
have James Wiseman, Jonathan
was the starting
Kuminga.
lineup.
Exactly, right? so
Wow.
when you have these kind of veterans, you can't wait until that fourth quarter. Now let's flip the switch.
Yeah.
And the Warriors, they can do that at times.
Right.
But this has been a season. They're 20-21 for a reason. You know,
Yeah.
this isn't. some mirage by any means. So stop thinking that you can wait this long to flip the switch. That's just my feeling as far as that goes. It's not that simple.
It's true, exactly. You can't just wake up and just think because we're the Warriors. And I'm not saying that they do think that. I mean, obviously these are veterans, so they understand the sacrifice it takes to be able to be great. But who doesn't know that? The second timeline, right? They call it the two timeline.
Yeah.
I don't know if the two timeline realizes just how much work, and that is what Steve Kerr mentioned in his post presser. We'll tease that a little bit when we come back now, but thanks for standing with us on YouTube. Welcome back to Dubs Talk Live. Let's look ahead to who the Warriors have to meet up with on the road. The Bulls coming up, we have the Spurs coming up this Friday, then the Bulls, then going to the Wizards, and then a back-to-back competition with the Celtics and the Cavaliers, who both stand in the top 6 in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and I've talked a lot about kind of games you need to take advantage of, and I think that's why it was really disappointing to end the homestand like this. Yeah. You talk about games against the Detroit Pistons, the Orlando Magic.
The easy wins.
Yeah, and the game tonight against the Phoenix Suns, who doesn't have 5 of their top players. You know, I mean, however many it was a handful of top players. Take advantage of those kind of games. These are the games you can't drop. You can't lose 3 straight like that. And I look at the start of this road trip, take advantage of playing the Spurs, the Bulls, the Wizards, because that Celtics game, that Cavs game, that's tough. And, you know, with this 5-game road trip, there are 2 sets of back-to-backs where we know you might not get Klay Thompson on both of those. Maybe Draymond Green gets a rest. So take advantage of the early portion and don't look back.
The Warriors definitely will probably have some minutes restrictions on this trip, and I agree with you. Making sure that you're taking care of those teams that are under 500, that aren't true competition, is going to be incredibly important. But remember, everyone shows up when they play the Warriors. Yeah. They play their A game. So that's definitely going to be a target on their back as they go on the road.
Yeah, Steve Kerr called tonight a wake-up call, said that he told the coaches this honestly could be a good thing in the long run. We're at the halfway mark. If there's any more wake-up calls, it might be too late. Wake up, take advantage of those early games, and start to rack up some wins on the road.
All right, well, they're going to have to start rubbing their eyes and getting their morning stretch out because they are going on the road and they cannot lose. Let's go for, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Dubs Talk Live, Zena, Keita, Dalton Johnson, and join us next game against the Spurs this Friday. Yay. All righty. Oof, that was weird ending. Sorry, guys. I don't know what I was thinking. All right, final thoughts on YouTube. Oh, gosh. I mean, you guys are brutal in the comments tonight, okay? I'm going to skip over some of this stuff. But I do think that there's another identity. Let's keep going with the theme of identity. Winning at home. That disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that's what was so wild is these final 3 games. I mean, you get Steph Curry back. You know, Klay has one of his kind of Klay nights tonight. You can't lose to these kind of teams, and I'm being repetitive as far as saying these games on paper because the NBA is not a predictable league by any means, right. And that's why we've talked about a target on your back. Everyone wants their A game. These games where you kind of have this random group of players like the Suns had tonight, it's kind of like playing a college team that you've never heard of, and you're like, who are these guys? I don't have a bunch of film on these guys.
Literally.
Right? So, like, that's why.
I've never seen Dwayne Washington Jr. I'm so sorry.
And, like, that's why you can't wait until the 3rd, 4th quarter.
Right.
You need to put the foot, your foot on the pedal in that first quarter.
Right. Agreed. I'm so curious as to what is it going to change. Is it a factor of culture of someone's got to step up and go, what the heck are y'all doing? And heck might be the nicer word to use, but some other words may be inserted there. But there's got to be some level of an urgency and also a commitment to one another. Right now, it just kind of feels like there's a bit of a disconnect from the identity of the team, a disconnect from people's personal identities as who they are as players. But and then also just a disconnect of the dynasty, right? This is what they do is win hard games and easy ones. Easy, again, on quotes. But they're not doing that. And so it definitely is going to be a very interesting shift for them to be able to see how it comes about for them?
Well, it starts on the road. The Warriors have had so much success in the past on the road, especially in the playoffs, things
That's
like
true.
that, right? There has never been an NBA champion in a long, long time
Right.
that has had a losing record on the road. I mean, you're going to go back to the 70s perhaps when it comes
Right.
to something like that. That's where just start to rack these up and get the confidence on the road, because we know how at home they feel here at Chase Center. Start to kind of feel that home vibe
Right.
when you're on the road. And again, don't wait until the back end against your tougher competition.
Right.
The Celtics, the Cavs, those are real contenders.
Right.
Make sure that you take advantage of these early opportunities against the Spurs, the Bulls, the Wizards, then build off of that.
Exactly. We are going off to the road, of course, and going onto the road, excuse me. And as you were talking, the thing that dropped into my mind was Steve Kerr blaming the game on himself. So not only are these players having to do that self-identity check and get on the road and make sure that they're playing and not waiting until the very last second to really show up, the coaches are going to have to start looking at some things too, right? Looking at the rotations that they're bringing back in as they're trying to reintegrate these veterans and these players that have been missing time. They're going to have to start looking at the way that they're balancing time as they're trying to get these players reconditioned to playing 40 minutes, right, as they go into the second half of the season and make that rush for the playoffs. So it'll be not only on the players to make sure that they're showing up for these games, but the coaching staff is definitely going to have to make some adjustments on their end too to ensure that they're winning games.
It's all about accountability, and that's what you want to hear as a player from your coach, and that kind of breeds to the locker room. And it's great to hear from Steve Kerr. Again, it's all about accountability. It's what you want to hear as a player from your coach, and hope that message is heard loud and clear.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us, watching Dubs Talk Live, and for leaving your comments on YouTube. We always appreciate you all being part of the Dubs Talk family. We will join you next time after the Spurs game. See you soon.